Okay, good morning. We're in the middle of a sugya of finding out the different various shittas in our Mishnah of Shevuous regarding what the various kabbanas that we used for. Okay, so we've been using a chart, and we saw that universally everyone held that if there was a yedi in the beginning and a yedi in the end, that's the carbon elevi rate. The yedi in the beginning and a yedi in the beginning and a yedi in the end, that was the carbon elevi rate. If it was Se'er, that was the one that was brought inside in Yom Kippur, everyone, this is universal, no one disagrees that it's Mechapa for Yediyah in the beginning and not the end, on Tumas Mithrish Kadashav, universally, whether it's whether it's Rabbi Yehuda, whether it's Reb Shimon, whether Reb Shimon, Ben Yehuda named Reb Shimon, or Reb Meah, they universally all agree, they universally all agree that what am I doing here? I have no idea. They universally all agree that I somehow have gotten rid of the chart. Great. So let's stop the show for a second. Okay. So there was no machlokes there. Over here, also universally, the Seir of Yom Kippur, the one that was done by Chutz, if there's no Yedi in the beginning and there was a Yedi in the end, everyone universally says it's Mechaper. There are additional opinions that it's Mechaper for more things. So basically, the three Kabbanis, one that we didn't even mention, that's the Oil of Yored, one that's on the chart, the first, and this one is Mechaper for everything. Now here's where it got interesting. The Regalim, Ein Bo Yediyah, Loi B'Tchila, Loi B'Soif, everyone agrees with that. That's universal, right? And it's a chapa, we don't have idea at all. The machloikis began over here between Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda regarding what this was used for. Okay, so Reb Shimon said he had a gezer shava avoin from the tzitz, just like the tzitz. If a piece of meat or a murim or chalev or dam was tamei, the tzitz is maratza, it makes the carbon accepted. So too, where it says oven by Resh Chodesh, it's for a tahar dika person that eats tamei dika meat. That was the gezer shava of what? Of oven. That was the gezer shava of oven. We wanted to know. So what Resh Chodesh is not mechapa for that. Why the Seir Resh Chodesh is not mechapa for that? Because again, in the gezer shava of oven, it's mashma that I saw just it and not for something else. So it's only one, not two. Just it would be useful to remember that there was a hekesh between the two of these things, between the pnimim and the chutz. Just like the pnim is mechape for yediyah, so too it's yediyah. However, they can't be mechape for each other either because it's only one kapara, and in addition that one kapara only comes once a year. We mentioned that yesterday. So we're continuing the different shittas to figure this out, figure what's going on over here. Let's continue on Tes Amid Beis. We're in Tes Amid Beis, a few lines up. Ashken Seirei Rosh Chodashim, the Mechapim ala Tahor Shoichel Esatame. We find the Seir Rosh Chodesh was Mechapa for the Torah that ate the Tameh. Seir Golim, the Mechape al She'em Bo Yediyah, Loi Betchila, Loi Besoif, Minalan. How do you know? How do you know that the Regolim, that according to Rav Shimon, Ein Bo Yediyah, Loi Betchila, Loi Besoif, how do you know that? Where do they know it from? Like Rav Chama, Rav Chanina is going to say on today's daf, it says Seir Useir. It says in the parsha of the Mayadim, one it says Seir, you're going to bring a Seir, Useir, and then the next parsha it says Useir. Hanami here too as well, Seir Useir. So just like Rosh Chodesh, is mechape for just like Seir Rosh Chodesh is mechape ein b'yidiyah le b'tchila le b'soif, hu adin the regalim is ein b'yidiyah le b'tchila le b'soif. Mased Rosh Chodesh b'milsa the Chodesh mechape. It's an Indian of Chodesh mechape, even though over here it's not being. Guys, look at the chart. You can't do this. You see the way I'm pointing? You can't do this because this is Shitas Reb Shimon and this is Shitas Reb Yehuda. So you can't do this. You have to do this. So what? If it says Seir here and Useya here, good. So how do you figure out Ein B'Yediyah Lo B'Tchila Lo B'Seif? So we see that this works the Inyan of Kachim. The fact that you're eating Kodesh Tame, you're eating. So too over here, it's in Kachim. However, it's not speaking about Torah Shaychel Esatame, it's speaking about Ein Bo Yediyah Lo B'Tchila Lo B'Seif. That's the Tzushtel. Let's see it inside. Vish Kesira or Golem Sira Resh Kodashim. Mas Seir the Resh Chodesh. B'Milsa the Kodesh Mechapre, which is what eating Kachim when you're Tahar and it's Tame. Av Seir Mergolim B'Milsa the Kodesh Mechapre. V'chitema, you'll ask the obvious question. Nechapre ad Resh Chodesh. Let this work for Rosh Chodesh, and let it work for Rosh Chodesh. Aminin oisa nois oven vein achen nois oven. Only the Rosh Chodesh carbon could be mechaper for this, and not any other carbon. So Fegdemar Akasha fellas, looking at the chart, if you have a relationship from Seir Useir between these two, why can't this be mechaper for Rosh Chodesh for Torah Shachas Atamei, as Rabbi Yehuda says over here? Because it says I saw one Aveira and not another one. Okay, fellas, since we're learning Seir, let's move up the chart, guys. Let's say the regalim should be mechaper for ein yediyah b'tchila, aval yesh yediyah b'sof. This is mechaper for no yediyahs at all. Loy, none. The Seir that's not so b'chutz and Yom Kippur is mechaper for yediyah in the end. If you're telling me there's a relationship between them from Seir Useir, let the regalim carbon be mechaper for the Seir of Rosh Chodesh of Yom Kippur. We already said achas b'shana kapor zu leitei ela achas b'shana. So in other words, you're right. There is a relationship from Seir Useir, but this kapara can only be once a year. The male, the regalim cannot be mechaper for en yediyah lo b'tchila en yediyah in the beginning, but yesh yediyah b'sof. Amay mechaper. So now what's mechaper? We're figuring out regalim. Iyal sheyesh ba yediyah b'tchila v'yesh ba yediyah b'sof. Guys, here's what we're doing, fellas. Look at the chart. I'm circling it over here. We're figuring out by the process of elimination that regalim has to be no yediyah in the beginning, no yediyah in the end. Let's go through it. If it's speaking about where you have a yediyah both, then you have what? Then you have the carbon olav yarid for that. If you have yediyah in the beginning, yediyah in the end. That's the ser that's not about b'fnim. Yediyah b'tchila v'loy b'soif. That's the yediyah that's not b'fnim. And Yom Kippur will be toila, and it'll be in suspended animation until you find out afterwards. There's no yediyah in the beginning. Guys, that's the ser b'chutz. No yediyah in the beginning, yes yediyah in the end. By the process of elimination, the only thing the regalim can be mechaper for is al she'en bo yediyah lo b'tchila v'lo b'seif. It's geschmack. Guys, let's go through it. We're trying to figure out, like Reb Shimon, how do you know the regalim is mechaper for no yediyah at all? Now, it can't be from Rosh Chodesh, because Rosh Chodesh is with Torah Shachas Hatamei, and even though there's a relationship between the two, right, the relationship only creates this at the din of Kachim over here. Right. This Rosh Chodesh can't be mechaper for this because Rosh Chodesh it says I saw only one kapara, nothing else. Okay, so now we know this is a kachim dikadin from our what? From our relationship to Rosh Chodesh. It has to be a kachim dikadin. Now, which kachim dikadin could it be? Off the chart, let's say yediyah in the beginning, yediyah in the end, guys. Yediyah in the beginning, yediyah in the end. That's an olav yared. Yediyah in the beginning, no yediyah in the end. That's the ser inside. No yediyah in the beginning, yesh yediyah in the end. That's the ser b'chutz. So what are you left with? No yediyah at all. The male, we know that the regalim is going to be mechaper for what? For that, and that's how we know it. Okay, guys, good. And it's very wordy, but it's pretty straightforward because you know the limudim. Once you have the achas b'shana, once you have the oven. Okay, so let's do it without the chart. Just get the words down. Yediyah in the beginning, yediyah in the end, olav yared. Yediyah in the beginning, no yediyah at the end, pnim. No yediyah in the beginning, yes yediyah in the end, bachutz. No yediyah at all, regalim. Tamei shachal es atar, tar is tahor shas atame. That's Shittas Rav Shimon. Reish Chodesh is mechapa for. That's Shittas Rav Shimon. Okay, Shittas Rabbi Yehuda was that the same thing with the exception of the Reish Chodesh. He held Reish Chodesh is mechapa for what? For no yediyah at all, right? That was the opinion of Rav Shimon in the first column. He said that the regalim were the same as this. His regalim no yediyah at all, no yediyah at all, and Reish Chodesh was no yediyah at all. Okay, so basically we have down two shitas. Guys, good review. Now we're going to get to the shita of Reb Meir. We're going to get the shita of Reb Meir, which is the shita. Reb Meir was of the opinion that they're all the same. Reb Meir was the opinion that they're all the same, with one exception. Reb Meir agrees to the first column that the seir that was brought inside is mechaper for yedi in the beginning and not yedi in the end. He doesn't argue on that. Where does he argue? But the other three, Bachutz, Regalim, and Reish Chodesh, he says the following. He agrees, En Yediyah B'tchila Aval Yesh Yediyah B'Seif. That everyone agrees with. En Yediyah B'tchila Ul B'Seif. There's no Yediyah at all, right? That everyone disagrees with, except with the exception of Reb Shimon. Everyone disagrees with that because they said you need a Yediyah. Yesh Yediyah in the end. Here he says no Yediyah at all, and it's from Mechapim for Tamei Shachal as a Tamei. So basically, what Reb Meir says. This, and this are all equal, right? They all mechaper for the same thing. There's a lot of words there. You could check it out. It's all the same words. I sent out the chart today. You should have it. You can print it out and have it. I think it's important for understanding this sugya. Okay, so where did Rabbi get his shita from? Right? Where did Rabbi get his shita from? So Rabbi I'm a kol asirim bekabras and shavin. Amar Rav Chama bar Chanina. My time in Rabbi Meir. Amakra. The pasuk says, Seir useir. Hukish kol asirim zelazeh. Now, if you look at the parsha, fellas, there is clauses like this: Rosh Chodesh and Pesach, Shevuous Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur Sukkot Shmini Atzeres, in descending order, which will make sense. Rosh Chodesh, Pesach, Shevuous, Rosh Hashanah. That's the order. Then Yom Kippur, then Shmini Atzeres. Okay, Sukkot Shmini Atzeres. The Havamina of the Gemara is the following. Oh, it says by Reish Chodesh that a Tardika person that eats Tamei, that is the Reish Chodesh is Mechapa for. Good. Why does it say next to it? It says Pesach. So says Reb Meir, if I'm going to learn out Sa'ir Usa'ir, just like it's Mechapa for this, I learn out this from this. Good. Got it? I'm learning at Pesach that Pesach should be mechaper for a tahor shaychel tamei from Rosh Chodesh. Next parsha says Shevuous. Okay, I'm going to learn that Shevuous from Pesach. That what? That tamei shaychel es tahor shaychel tamei. I'll then learn out Rosh Hashanah from Shevuous. In other words, the first limud is there, and then I learned out that limud from this. Then I learned this from a limud. Then I learned this from a limud because by Pesach and Shevuous, it doesn't say anything about Tamei that ate tar dates tahar. We're learning that from Rosh Chodesh. The problem with that, fellas, is by Kodshim, you can't learn lamed min alamed. If something is learned out, you can't learn it out. So if that is your process of learning, that you have Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Pesach, Shevuous, Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh, right? And you're starting off Rosh Chodesh's limud, then the problem is that once you learn it from here, you won't be able to learn further, because that's the Kachim Dikadin. So the Gemara is going to conclude and say, we're going to learn everything out from Rosh Chodesh. In other words, what's the din of Rosh Chodesh? Tar Shachas Tamei, we're all going to learn out from there. So we're not learning out from something else. We're all going back to the original source. We're all going back to the original source. It's not, I'm learning 3 from 2 and 4 from 3. I'm learning 2 and 3 from 1, right? In other words, going back to the original source for each one of them. And that's the next piece of Gemara. Says the Gemara. My time of the Meir, across Seir Useir. Hukish kol asirim zelazeh. Vav moisif al inyan rishain. Kasal kedaitach the Havamina is. Kol chad v'chad mechavrei gomar. 1, 2 is going to learn from 1, and 3 is going to learn from 2, and 4 is going to learn from 3. Ivan Rabbi Yochanan kol Torah kula lamedim lamed min alamed. Kol Torah kula, you could do that. Chutz mit kachim, and access when it comes to kachim, because there is a kasav in Ezel Mekayman. She'ein lamedim lamed min lamed. Holei kasha. It's not like you thought that you're learning 3 from 2 and 4 from 3. Kula mikama gamar. We're all learning from one. We're all in the din of Torah, Shaykh, from one. And we're all learning, whatever the din of Yom Kippur, we're going to learn from Yom Kippur. And the din of, we're going to learn from each one, we're going to learn. Kula mikama gamiri. Good. Teinach malamed. Everyone that you have a vav, atzeres yom kippur like a siv bei v'soyer minalan. So, guys, if you're telling me the following, one is connected to 2 through a vav. You can't say one is connected to 3 with a vav because there's no vav by 3, and there's no vav by yom kippur. So how could you learn them out? How could you learn them out? So on that, the Gemara answers, Ella Amar Rav Yoina Amar Kro Elu Tasu LaHashem Elu Tasu LaHashem B'Moyadechem Levad B'Moyadechem Hukish Kol HaMoyadim Kulin Zelazeh. We have a Hekish Kol HaMoyadim. So we'll be Makish. This Machlokes Rishonim is going back on the whole limud that there's one big Hekish. Or that no, just for the Yom Kippur and Atzeres, where it doesn't say the Vav, those 2, this pasuk will go ahead and generate that it's going to be connected to the 2. So in Shitas Rav Shimon, in Shitas Rav Meir, guys, going down the line, good. Rav Meir agrees, as we'll see in a second, to this. Over here, he disagrees because he connects all of these either through a Vav, Seir Useir, or he connects it through what? Eila Moyadechem, all of them together. That's the Shita of Rav Meir. Are we good? Heshi had a question?
What does he do with what we learned by Yom Kippur, Achas? That's a different limud. Achas, remember Achas? I remember the post Achas.
Yeah, you have to say that. He doesn't hold to that. You have to say he doesn't hold to that. He doesn't. You have to say that he doesn't hold that limud. That you can only learn, once a year. He connects all of them.
Okay.
Anyway, says the Gemara Vaita. Resh Chodesh Slav Moed Hu. Resh Chodesh is not a Moed. So how can you say that Eila Moyadim? How can you include it in all of them? You're calling it a Moed. It's not a Moed. So, says the Gemara, Ibra, in truth, Resh Chodesh Nami Yekra Moed. It's called a Moed. Okay, where do we know it's called a Moed? A little background over here. The Meraglim, they are sent out. The Meraglim are sent out to spy the land. They're sent out on the 29th day of Sivan. 29th day of Sivan. Tammuz that year was Mole, was a 30. Nimsa, they came back on the 8th. Right? So and what does it say then? So Ibra, Rechodesh Nami Ikri Moed, Kidam Rabbi, the Rabbi, Tammuz Dahu Shasa. Tammuz, the year that the Meraglim was sent, Miluyi Miluyuhu. There was a Mole. Dichsiv Kora Alai Moed, Lishba Bachurai. I call it Moed to break my Bachurim, to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. We said that night, right, the Gemara in Tainus, that night they cried. Hashem said, "You're crying now for what? I'll give you something to cry about." Right, and that was future direct. So, but that's the point. The point is, it says Koralei Moyed. Speaking of Rosh Chodesh, and it says it's called Moyed. Rabbi Yochanan, Umoyed Reb Meir b'Seir Nasa b'Fnim Shu Eina Mechaper Kaparasan. The Seir that's done. So, Hesh, the answer to your question is that Achas was said by this carbon. Hesh, I'll answer your question very nicely. I gave you the wrong answer before. Where does it say Achas, Heshi? By the Seir that's done inside. Good?
Mm-hmm.
He agrees to that. Reb Meir agrees to that. Right? He only disagrees over here. He agrees to that. Got it?
Yeah.
So that's how he answers your question. Your question is a very good question. That's how he answers the question. He doesn't disagree. It says Achas Bashana. It says by the Seir that's done inside. In Chinami, it's not one time. And Remeus is moida by the ser that's done inside. That what? That he's moida to the other chachamim. That the hein einon mechap kaparasan. Who einon mechap kaparasan? I'm not reading. I'm reading. I'm Rabbi Yachin. Umoida Reb Meir. Meir is moida. B'seir hanase b'fnim. Shu einon mechap kaparasan. That it's not mechapev with the other seirim. Guys, the other seirim are not mechapev the kapara for the one that's done inside. Reish Chodesh, Regalim, Chutz are not mechapev for Yedi in the beginning, no Yedi in the end. Again, going up the chart. Reish Chodesh, Regalim, Chutz are not mechapev for Pinim. What is the Pinim mechapev for? Yedi in the beginning, no Yedi in the end. Good. V'heinin mechapim kaparasai. Who ain't a mechapev kaparasan? Right? He's not mechapev. Kapara achas mechapev. In other words, Reb Meir, who says that all of these bump are mechapa, are moida, that they can't be mechapa for him and he can't be mechapa for them. Two ways. Again, they can't be mechapa for him and he can't be mechapa for them. So that's what we're saying right now. Who ain't mechapa kaparasan? Right. What's the reason? What's the reason? Why can't they work for each other? Why can't they work for each other? So now that's the Gemara's referring, guys. Who the sayer that's nasa b'fnim ein mechape kaparasan? Why? Because kapara achas mechape and mechape shtei kapares. It can only do itself for the yedi in the beginning, no yedi in the end, but nothing more. There's your achas heshi. It can only mechape one thing. Hein ein mechapim kaparasai sha'ama kra achas bashana kaparazu loitei ella achas bashana. We had two achases yesterday, guys. We had two achases. One to tell me that this animal can only be mechaper once, and no more kaparas. And this one, this kapara that this takes, only takes place once a year. So watch. Reb Meir is moida that this does the same as everyone else. Why? Why can't it be mechaper for other averis? And what's the answer? Because it says achas. It only can be mechaper for one avera. That's it. It says achas. Now, why can't these be mechaper for him? If you have the vav that's connecting, why can't these be mechaper for this? And the answer is that this kapara only comes once a year. So therefore, it only is through the seir nasa b'fnim. And therefore, they can't be mechaper for it. That seir that's done b'fnim cannot be mechaper for them because it only is limited to one kapara. They can't be mechaper for him because that kapara that it works is only once a year. Memela, it's limited to that one thing. Bobblehead, we're good? Everyone's good. Okay. So that was Heshi's question, and that's the way Reb Meir answered it. Okay, continues the Gemara. Tanya Nami Hachi, we have a brisa also. Al she'ein behem yediyah loy betchila v'loy b'seif. On a animal, on an avera, that there's what? There's no yediyah at all. Al she'ein ba yediyah betchila. You have yediyah in the beginning, aval yesha ba yediyah b'sof, but not yediyah in the beginning, but you have yediyah in the end. V'loy v'al tor she'oichel es hatamei. Sir regolim, Sir Rosh Chodashim, Sir hanasa b'chutz mechaprim, div Reb Meir. V'ilu seir hanasa b'fnim, but the seir inside, shayra, we leave it out. Kaprasa nami shayra. We leave out the seir nasa b'fnim, and we leave out the kapara of the what? Of the yedi in the beginning and not the yedi in the end. So Tanya nami hachi, that Reb Meir agrees that carbon of that's nasa b'fnim will not go ahead and afford any kapara for the bachutz, the regalim, and the Rosh Chodesh. Now, Rav Shimon, we go back to Rav Shimon. Guys, Rav Shimon said in the Mishnah, let's go back to the Mishnah for a second. On Beis Amid Beis. On Beis Amid Beis. So you start at the top line, Beis Amid Beis. Reb Meir says, Kol ha'seirim kaparas and shava al tumas mikdash ukadashav. Now, Hay Reb Shimon Omer, Siri Rosh Chodashim, Mechapim al Atar. This Reb Shimon we already had. In other words, this lengthy Mishnah, Reb Shimon is reiterating what he said on the Amid Aleph. The Gemara now is coming to explain this clause of the Mishnah. Is coming to explain this clause, the repetitious clause of Reb Shimon. We're coming to go ahead and repeat. Says the Gemara, Hay Reb Shimon Omer, Siri Rosh Chodashim, Mechapim al Atar, Shoich Lesatamei. As we said, and Regalim is mechaper on no yediyah at all, and Yom Kippur is mechaper what on yediyah in the beginning. You didn't have yediyah in the beginning, but you did have yediyah in the end. Now, Bishleima, the Rosh Chodashim, mechaper yad Regalim. Bishleima, the last box Rosh Chodesh is not mechaper on Regalim. The Makra Avain Echad Hu Noisei Ve'ein Noisei Shtei Avoinos. That the Rosh Chodesh that was compared to the Tzitz will only be mechaper for one thing and not two things. So, fellas, it can only be mechaper for tahor she'achles atamei and not no yediyah at all. Why is it in the regel mechaper for Rish Chodesh for tamei she'achles hakodesh? Makra. Okay, in other words, we're asking this. Like Rav Shimon, guys. Good, I understand why this is alone, because it's avain. Why can't this be mechaper this also? Why can't the regalim be mechaper for shachas as a tamei? Why is that not? How come that can't be? That's what we want to know. And that the answer says, it says by Rosh Chodesh Isa, we said Isa noisei es avain, be'ein achin noisei avain. Only Rosh Chodesh will carry the kapara for tarsha for the tamei and not the regalim. Bishleim the regalim mechaper madiyam kippurim. Bishleim regalim that's mechaper for no yediyah at all. They won't be mechaper for we had a yediyah in the end. The makra achas bashana kapara zu lo tehel achas bashana. This kapara will only happen once a year. El yom kippurim mechapru ad the regalim. Let the seir that's not said bechutz be mechaper for the regalim. Let the seir that's nasa b'chutz, again, just working up and down the chart, fellas. Let the seir nasa b'chutz be mechaper for the regalim. So in other words, ein ba yediyah loy b'tchila loy b'soif. Not only ein loy b'yediyah, aval yesh yediyah in the end. This is a no yes. Even a no, it should work. That's the makro. Achas, kapara achas, mechaper bein mechaper shtei kaparos. We make the hekesh. It says achas. We're making a hekesh, guys, from here to here. Guys, even though, fellas, it says achas by here, even though it says achas by here, we make the hekesh. So achas, this kapara will only happen once a year. This kapara will only happen once a year, and therefore it can't be mechaper for the other one. Amakra achas kapara achas mechaper bein mechaper shtei kaparos. Ivokasiv achas b'seir hanasib b'fnim hu dersiv. It's said by the first one. I gave you the answer already. It's a hekesh, right? Amakra milvad almost amibeis milvad chatas hakipurim v'ishkes chitzoin lepanimi. We make a hekesh between the chutz to panimi, just like panimi is once a year, so to the chutz is once a year. That's it. Okay, now we had a different shita. The shita of Rav Shimon, this shita, fellas. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda and Rav Shimon. So let's see the difference between him and Rav Shimon. This is exactly the same, right? Guys, the first column, take a look on the board, please. Boys, look at the board. This is exactly the same, right? This and the bottom is exactly the same. Here's where it changes. He works his way up. By the regalim, no yediyah, he agrees, no yediyah, but he adds Rish Chodesh. He adds this as well. Good? Next. Ein ba yediyah, he agrees, but he adds this. He adds the whole column over here. He adds no yediyah at all, and he adds Tamashach Chodesh. So the ser that's nasa b'chutz accomplishes the same thing as the regalim and Rish Chodesh. That's his shita. So we want to know how. Rav Shimon himself said no, each one was only 1, 1, 1. How does he accomplish that? So the limudim that we had to Rav Shimon that didn't accomplish that, he's going to not have those limudim. Because we went ahead and we exhausted that already. We asked, according to Shimon, how come it was not included in the previous carbon? So let's see it inside. Maishna deresh chodesh delemechape aregalim. You, Rav Shimon ben Yehuda Amoida, that Reish Chodesh is only for Torah Shachas Atamei and not for no Yediyah at all. Damakra Avain Avain. Avain Echad Hu Noisei. Ve'ein Noisei Shnei Avain Shtei Oinais. He's only Mechapa one and not more. The Regolim Nami Lein Chapi Ad Reish Chodashim. Regolim Shnapi Mechapa Reish Chodesh Damakra I saw Hu Noisei Avain Ve'ein Echad Noisei Avain. Right? This was the miyat, guys, of Rav Shimon. This was the miyat of Rav Shimon. When we asked the question before, how come Regolim is not mechapah v'toshach as a tamei? We said, I saw, only it and nothing else. So over here, fellas, look, why light Rav Shimon ben Yehuda? In fact, why is this over here? Don't you have I saw? I saw meaning it's limited to Reish Chodesh. How does it make its way over here? The Gemara answers he doesn't darshan Isa. He doesn't darshan Isa. Back inside, Isa le mashmalei. Continues the Gemara. Maishna de regolim le mechapi ad Yom Kippurim. What's the reason that the regolim is not mechapa for Yom Kippur? How come this is not mechapa for Yedi in the beginning, Yesh Yedi in the end? How come the Gemara, fellas, again, the Gemara, we said before, is 1 and 1. You're telling me that this could be mechapa for this, right? You're telling me why the regolim is not mechapa for this? Because it says achas. It only happens once a year. Damakra achas b'shana kapara zulay te achas b'shana. Ihachi yom kippurim nami le nechapri ad regolim. Because achas ksiv. Kapara achas mechap meinu chapash te kaparos. So guys, why in the world, fellas, look, why can this be mechapa for this? Achas b'shana, it only happens once a year. So why is this mechapa for what? For any idea, b'tchilu b'soif. Why are you mechapa for that? Says the Gemara, because it's two kaparas, not once a year, it's two kaparas. Says the Gemara, so achas loy mashmalei. So the achas is not mashma. Amai, why not? The chiksiv achas b'ser nasi b'fnim kasiv. Oh, you know why it's not mashma achas to him? Because it's written by here and not by here. Now we made a hekesh between these two fellas. We made a hekesh. Says the Gemara, Hachi the regolim nami nechapru ad Yom Kippurim. The chiksiv achas b'ser nasi b'fnim kasiv. So fellas, if you're telling me that if you don't have the hekesh, so let the regolim be mechapa for number one. Let the regolim be mechapa for number one. If you have the achas, then they have the hekesh that this kapara only happens once a year. I can understand why the regolim are not mechapa for Yom Kippur b'chutz. But if you're telling me that you don't make the hekesh to achas of penim, and therefore this can be mechapa for more than one avera, this can be mechapa for more than avera. So let the regolim be mechapa for number one. After all, you don't have the hekesh. As I said, the regolim nami nechapru ad Yom Kippurim. Let the regolim carbon be mechapa for the Yom Kippur carbon, meaning ein yediyah b'tchila but yesh yediyah b'soif. The chikas of achas b'ser nasa b'fnim kasiv, and therefore you don't have the limit of achas. Gemara answers loylam achas mashmalei. Achas is mashma, but there's a difference, guys. There's two achases. One that tells me only one kapara. Another one tells me that what? Only once a year. B'shayni hachad amakro v'chipa arin al karnoisav achas bashana. Karnoisav the mizbeach hapnimi hu de kapara achas mechaper. Vein mechaper shte kaparas. Had the chitzayim afilu shte kaparas. Okay. Pirish. He makes the hekesh of achas, but since the pasuk says that there's two dinim of achas. There's one that happens once a year, and two, it's only one kapara. So he says that's one kapara is over here. It's only over here because it says v'chiper. It says v'chiper al karnes mizbeach. That's mizbeach ha pnimi. However, in the Mizbeach Achitzain, it could happen more than one kapara. Therefore, this Mizbeach Achitzain can be mechaper for what? More than one thing. It can be mechaper not only for what? For a yediyah, no yediyah in the beginning, yes yediyah in the end. It can even be mechaper for what? No yediyah at all. It can be mechaper, no yediyah at all. Let's see that limit one more time. So you have a kasha. If you don't make the hekesh to Pnimi, that the whole achas doesn't apply to bachutz. If the whole achas doesn't apply to bachutz, right? That's how you can go ahead and have more than one carbon, right? Says the Gemara, if that's the case, then the regolim should go ahead and be mechapa for number one, because again, if you're telling me there's no achas, that means that doesn't happen once a year. So that we're going to try and answer the question. The regolim nami nechapu ad Yom Kippurim. The regolim that are mechapa only for no yediyah at all should be mechapa for no yediyah in the beginning, but yesh yediyah in the end. The chikasev achas b'seir nasib b'fnim kasev. Since it says achas, it's said only by the seir that's done inside and not the one done outside. So how come it's only mechapa for one? Regolim is only mechapa for one and not two. It says Maloyam achas mashmalei. He does learn achas, and therefore what? Regolim is only going to be one. For shiny hacha, what's the reason this is two? Damakro v'chipa aron al karnoisav achas bashana. Karnoisav the mizbeach hapenimi hu dekapara achas mechaper bein mechaper shte kaparas. Only this mizbeach penimi, the golden mizbeach can only mechaper one. The outside mizbeach, since this is bachutz, you can be mechaper for even more than one. But hide the chutz afilu shte kaparas. Okay. Intense. Again, if you put the chart in front of you, it's you're basically working up and down, and you're working with a few different factors. But I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not the easiest Gemara. Okay. Shem is Mali Asaf. Elohim Adam Ilacha Techrash Vatishkarel. Hine Vachayem Moinem Snach Nasirosh. Alam Chayari Musav Yasatsu Altzmanecha. Amaru L'chu Ben Achidim Yigoy V'Leizach Hashem Yisraelod. Hine Watzalei V'Chavalecha B'Sachreisu. Ahalei Yadayim Mishmei L'Maya Vagrim. Geval V'Amayin V'Amalek Pleshas Myoshveit Sar. Gam Asher Nil Ba'imam Hoyes V'Elef Noitzela. Asay Lehem Kimidyon Kisesrav Kiyav Menachal Kishon. Nishmedu Veindar Hoyedem El Adama. She's saying when the Divema Karei V'Chazei V'Chazei Achu Ketzaman Akol Nisachimai. Asher Amru Ner Shalom Ois Nois Elohim. Elohai Shesem Chakagal Kekashet Niruach. Keish Tivayach Lovat Lahedarim. Kainte the famous Sarachus Faschas Valeim. Alef Nehem Kolaim Bivakshu Shemcha Adonai. Yevoshu Vibalu Adi Abiachru Viavedu. Viedu Kiatosh Shemcha Adonai Kolaretz. Achenu Kabes Yisroel. And the Sunnah Batzara V'Shibya. Home then Bein Bayom Bein Bayabasha. Amakoim Rachim Alayim Yatzim Yitzarol Bachom Afelu Liyara. Umishiba Ligula. Hashta. Bagalov's Makariv, Neymar, Amen. Have a good day.